Yeah.
I wanted to document. But I did kind of look at it, but didn't really look at it.
Right. I didn't. You need some help with getting the figure out, or are you good?
So I'm good.
It's probably good not to touch anything.
the early bird must have made compensation for the rain, except for you, because you only walked for a part. Man, I want the rain to start here to get on my way down.
Like to call it that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you don't? Very fine. The other one, online class, I'm trying to figure out. The semester. But, yes, I got it right here. Yeah. Okay, 5:10 at 10:01. Don't even get to wait until 12:15. You'll be done by then. Even up here. Never better. How are you? Better and back to normal? Was it, did you get real sick? All right, well, glad to see you back. let's get some. Hello, how are you? I'm gonna give him a couple more minutes. Man, especially around school, people taking pictures of the screen. Okay, so today we need to wrap up semantics and we need to go over the study guide.
And then I'm going to launch briefly into pragmatics. We probably won't do it all today, but we'll get started on pragmatics. And then we'll call the day a quit. And we'll be back on Thursday to finish up pragmatics, and we'll probably walk through, I think we'll walk through exercise B on Thursday. Anyway, so with that in mind, what I'd like to do is finish off the homework pieces of semantics. That would be exercises E, F, and G. And then we will go over the study guide, because that's going to hit both syntax and the semantics stuff and pragmatics, but there's really like one question on pragmatics, not very much there, and it's just a really general question, but we will do that. In fact, I think it's on here, right? It's on the study guide. Yeah, it's going to be very similar to the thing that's on the study guide, but in any case, let us go and start looking at some of these terms for semantics, the study of meaning, and largely it's kind of the study of literal meaning, actually dictionary level meaning for the most part. And then we're going to see pragmatics is related, but still a bit different. Okay, so let's take a look at exercise E. It's on page 36. And the first question is, what reference relationship holds between the italicized expressions in each of the following? George, italicized, won't give himself an injection. So what's the relationship we have there? Lorraine, what do you think? Right, anaphora, exactly. So it's an anaphoric relationship. Himself is pointing back to George. Now, when we jump down to the second one, Maxine has been named Secretary of the Student Government Association. Which one is that, Sebastian? Nope, I don't think it's going to be extension. We've got two terms referring to the same entity, or two terms going back to the same reference. Want to take another shot at it? Co-reference, exactly, because we've got two things. We've got the name Maxine, and we've got the student government, president of the Student Government Association, both referring back to that same person, right? So that would be co-reference. In the sentence, and this is number 2, in the sentence, Mary gave me all his money, his can be interpreted how? Is it anaphoric? Is it an anaphora? Maybe. This is on page 36. Okay, Jen, we're going to jump over to Jen. In the sentence, Mary gave me all this money. Things can be interpreted. Is it anaphoric? Okay, how about, which one did you answer? Okay. All right. Want to take a shot at it while we're sitting here with 15 sets of eyes looking at you for guidance and leadership? Is it an anaphor? Remember what anaphor is? It's like she relating back to somebody else or herself. She gave it to herself. Or George won't give himself an injection. That's an anaphor. Great. Okay. So for 2, not A. How about is it a prototype? Is his a prototype of Mary?
So
You're the
we're
rabbi?
really looking at number 2, not number 2.
Oh, no, we did B. So we're at 2. The prototype. E, A and B only. Well, those two aren't the same kind of a thing, so it's not going to be E. Is it a prototype? Is Janice a prototype of Mary? What's a prototype? No, it's not. It's not an anaphor. And is his and Mary referencing the same thing? No, so it's not going to be that. And I already said E isn't going to be it, so it's going to be none of the above. If you remember the idea of deictic, you may remember that they had that picture up there with a person standing here, and he and she and his and her. It's somebody talking about somebody else. So this one would be deictic. And then what reference relationship holds between who and anyone in the sentence? Anyone who parks illegally. Kendra? Nope. Want to take another shot at it? Anyone and who? A little goofy. Sorry. This one is going to be an anaphor. Who is really relating back to anyone. So anyone who is pointing back. Who parks illegally will be towed. If you only had that, it wouldn't sound right because you need something in there before the who. Okay, so that's that one. So in 3, it should be anaphora. Okay, then we come to Ariana, who's going to lead the way with exercise E-F. Yeah. So consider the following interchange between two people facing each other. This is going to be great. Remember what I told you about my mother wrecked me with these little games? Okay, here we go. It is the one on the right, and Ethel says, my right or yours? Is this overlap? Is this entailment? Is it synonymy? What is it? Huh? What's the word? Deixis. Yes, it's deixis. Okay, very good. So basically, this is the one where two people may be looking at exactly the same thing, or they've got one word that means exactly the same thing, but depending on where you're looking at it from, it could be different. So you've probably gone through this. It's on the right, my right or yours, and that would be deixis. Okay, consider the following data. Mandy, come to me, go to him, come to him, go to me. Which one of those is absolutely unacceptable?
The last 2.
The last 2? Well, they'd only ask for one, so it's not going to be both. You can come to him if you're standing next to that person, I guess. Come to him. That one would work.
Go to me.
Huh?
The go to me.
I'm sorry.
The last one, go to me.
Go to me, right, exactly. Because you can't say go to me. There's no place and no way for you to come up with something that says go to me. You could say come to me, that we'd say that kind of stuff all the time. But the problem is you wouldn't say go when you're saying to me because I'm over here, so you'd have to come, right? And at least in English, and as we've mentioned before, other languages don't do it that way. And so it becomes very confusing for some students. Which of the verbs in the following set of sentences does not have a deictic component? Okay, Isabel, this will be great for you. Ready? No. Frank came to New York. If I'm in New York, I could say Fred came to New York, and it'd be perfectly sensible. And if I said Fred went to New York, if I was someplace else, that would be perfectly sensible. But when I say Fred arrived in New York, it doesn't matter where I am. I could be in New York and say he arrived here, or I could be in Denver and say he arrived in New York. So that is the one that doesn't have a deictic component. But went and, or go and come are both deictic verbs. But arrive Doesn't matter where you are, it can still work. Christina. In the sentence, John gave me all his money. We can be, me can be interpreted either deictically or anaphorically only, or deictic only. Deictic only, right? Very good. All right, so that's deictic only. If he gave all his money, the his and John could be anaphoric, but given that me and John are two different people, we can't really do it that way, right? Okay. In the sentence, Mary gave herself an insulin injection. Lupe. Yep, anaphorically only. Doesn't have any deictic component, but she gave herself, basically herself going back and pointing back to she, the same person. Okay. That was 5. And then we come over to G. This is where we are kind of looking at truth a little bit, and truth statements and so forth. What kind of truth is illustrated by each of the following? Waldo's living room has 4 right angles. What do you think? Synthetic, why? Sure, he could be in a room that has 5 sides or 5 corners, or 3. He could be in a triangular room, right? So in that particular case, it's synthetic. You have to know the particular situation you're in. Let's see. And then a square has 4 right angles. Give us 2 in a row, Arpad. How do you know? That's basically the definition of a square, right? So if we say what the definition is, it's basically that. Okay. Now the sentence, siblings are not relatives, is, Selma, what do you think? Sure, this is on exercise G. The sentence, siblings are not relatives, is what? Is that analytic? Is it sometimes true? Or is it absolutely true? Siblings, you know what siblings are? Okay, so siblings are not relatives. Is that a true statement? No. So it's not going to be analytic because it's not a true statement. Is it sometimes true? Siblings are not relatives? Is it sometimes true if you look at 2 people, you can tell? If you know their siblings, are they relatives? Is that true? Listen to the right. So that one's not true. Is it contradictory? Well, it's an absolute error because siblings are always relatives, right? They're brothers and sisters. They are always relatives. So this one is going to be contradictory. It is false due to the definition of the words. So it should be B. Boys will be boys is an example of what kind of a sentence? Analytical, because it's always true, right? We boys are boys. It's kind of hard for it to be anything else, right? And then we get to a widow is a man. This is for Cynthia. A widow is a man whose wife has died. Is that analytic, synthetic, or contradictory? Yes, it is. Why is it contradictory? Very good. Okay, great. Exactly. Now let's say this one, since it's so closely related, we're going to give you an extra shot at heroism. My mother is a widow is an example of what? Analytical, synthetic, or contradictory? Why? Of the synthete? No. But you're absolutely right. It is synthetic. Why is it synthetic? It depends on the family, right? You have to depend. Some people's mothers are widows. Many others yours are not, right? Would all depend on where your father was. Okay, now we're going to go back up here and we're going to come back to Lorraine because she wants to answer 6A. This pentagon is six-sided. Is that analytical, synthetic, or contradictory? Why? How many sides in a pentagon? 5. So obviously, based on the definition, it's false. All right, a horse is a horse. Oh, man. Analytical, it can't be, horse can't be a dog. How many of you remember a horse is a horse, of course, of course. And no one can talk to a horse, of course. Unless, of course, the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Well, none of you remember. Okay. You're probably better people for it. Because you will never hassle your students with Mr. Ed's things. What? A triangle is a three-sided figure. Analytical, synthetic, or contradictory? Great. My cat is not a mammal, Jen. Yes, contradictory, right? Because you know what a cat is. A cat is a mammal. No way around it. How about this one? Me as pet is not a mammal. Why? It depends on the pet. What kind of a pet wouldn't be a mammal? One of those weird people who gets a snake. My son, who used to have lizards, bearded dragons. They live forever. Anyway, we had one that wouldn't die. It just wouldn't die. It lived, it lived. Kept thinking it was dead. We'd go up there and shake it. Oh, I'm fine. Okay. The animal is not a pet. Synthetic, how do you know? Yeah, it depends on which animal we're talking about, right? If I'm talking about a cow out in the barn, it's probably not a pet for most people, right? Very good. Or there on my Windows machine yesterday was a picture of a badger. Mean little buggers. You know what dachshunds were bred for? You know those nice little wiener dogs? You know what dachshunds were bred for? Little skinny goobers. Wiener dog, hot dog. What were they born? What were they bred for? Make the connection. I'm talking to badgers. They were bred to hunt badgers. Believe it, that's true. They are really mean little goobers. Okay. All right. So that was your animal husbandry lesson for today. Today, at this point, we're going to move on to looking at the study guide. So I think what we'll do is we're going to just put this on blank. We'll probably want to draw some trees. And the first thing we want to do is look at the study guide number 1. Identify all of the noun phrases and verb phrases in the following. So here we go. My big brother kicked my ball into the yard down the street. Oh, Ariana. My big brother kicked my ball into the yard down the street. What are all the noun phrases?
My big brother is the mountain.
Yep.
The yard will be over. My ball will be and the street will be over.
The street, yes. I did have an error on the key, I just noticed. When you see the key, it should be the yard down the street, because the yard, as you called out, is true, but down the street is actually defining the yard. So in there, the yard down the street is actually the noun phrase, and the street by itself is a noun phrase. But don't forget, you go back to page 50, a noun phrase frequently has a prepositional phrase in it. In this case, down the street, and the street is the noun complement for the preposition. Okay, so those are those. And then Mandy, my big brother kicked my ball into the yard down the street. What is the verb phrase?
So kick my ball into the yard down the street
Very good. So how do you know that?
because there's the verb phrase with kick my ball and down the yard is the part of the noun phrase.
Well, not part of the noun phrase, part of the
It's a
verb phrase. Exactly. So you're going to start with anything that might be modifying the verb. If there isn't anything there, you would start with the verb. And how far in the sentence are you going to go?
The end.
All the way to the end. Don't forget that. That one's an easy one to forget. Starts with the verb or its modifier and goes to the end. All right. Identify and list all of the many phrases in I climbed the rickety ladder to the very top rung before lunch. All right, let's do it this way. I want to go. Isabel, what would you call out as a noun phrase? Okay, cool. So I'm going to put empty here. I got I. And then what would you come up with next? The very rickety ladder, yes. To the top rung, to the very top rung, no, because that's really talking about climb. But to the rickety ladder. And then what would you come up with? The very top. The very top rung. Okay, cool. The very top rung. You have one more noun phrase in there. Lunch. Okay, let's see. Guess we'll go to our pod. What else do you see there? Got that one, that's good. Got a verb phrase? Run before lunch, right? So that one's going to be the verb phrase. It's going to start with climbed. All the way to the very back before lunch. Because it's going to say, where did you climb to? That was the very top rung. When did you do it? Is also talking about the verb. And so that would be before lunch. Got anything? Oh, you don't have it with you. Okay. Lupe, what else do we have in there? Don't know. Christina. No, we got lots more. I'm missing one there. No, I'm not. There it is. Huh? To what? To the very top rung, right? So what kind of a phrase is that? I'm sorry? No. Starts with to. What kind of a word is to? T-O. Prepositional phrase. Okay, so that's got that. You see anything in here? The very top one. What do you find in there? You do, but we count that as the noun, part of the noun phrase. Is there anything in there besides the determiner and the noun? Gonna give up? Okay. Cynthia. What else is up there? There's two, at least two that I can see. But actually, there's a couple more. There's another prepositional phrase. Before lunch. Okay, great. That's one that we want. And then what else do we have? Very before lunch. So what else is in there? Inside this noun phrase. There is an adverb phrase, very, right? Okay, anything else? I'm sorry? Adjective, what is the adjective phrase? Yes, rickety is good, so we'll put that right here. AP is going to be rickety. And, oh, a little bigger. Nope. Bigger in the other direction. Very tall. This one. So this is going to be very tall. Remember, that an adjective phrase oftentimes will have an intensifier, an adverb in front, and that was what the word very was. So here we called it out as an adverb phrase. That's correct. And we've got very top would be an adjective phrase. There. Yeah, let's see. We got all of that before lunch. I think that's everything. Anybody else got anything else? They got lunch? Yep, we got lunch up there. So that's what we're going to look at, right? So there will be a question on the test where I'll give you a fairly long sentence like that. Expect you to give me all of the phrases. It's like, that would be a bit of a problem. Simply because there very is really an adverb phrase built into that. So you would need to call that out. Okay? Let's see. Any other questions? I'm at Galley. Galley. Oh. Well, the first thing that's there, first thing that's there is there's a prepositional phrase. Is that prepositional phrase written correctly? No, why not? Got to put a little louder. The verb? Okay, the preposition. Well, actually, the prepositional phrase is jumped out. The whole phrase should be a prep and then a noun. Okay, very good. What's wrong with the noun phrase? I'm all the way to Selma. Noun phrase. How do we fix that? Okay. Does the adjective in English come after the noun or before? Yep. So we're going to have to put that in here. And then we've got the noun phrase. Let's have a whole noun phrase. We've got the noun in there. What else might be there? Anybody? Prepositional phrase, right? Now, let's put that like that. Now, there's one other thing or a couple of other things that are still missing. Anybody? What do you think? What's missing up there? The parentheses to make them optional, right? So where do the parentheses go? Why don't they go around this? You got to have a noun phrase, right? Exactly. And then we've got the next one. Let's see, Sebastian, we're looking for verb phrases. What should this one read? Okay. Well, that's true. We don't need to break that down. If we got an NP here, we know we can take everything that's up there. We're not putting a new determiner in there. Is there anything else that goes here? Is there always going to be a noun phrase after the verb? Could be an adjective phrase. Now, the thing here is we need to draw these around here because it's going to typically be one or the other. Right? Okay. And then let's see. What else do we have? What else might be here? Anything else? Okay. Anything missing? Okay. What else? Where? Continue on, Diana. What's next? Anything else missing up there? Got it? You know what's missing? Okay. Let's see. Jen. You know what?
I don't know.
You don't have a clue. There could be an adverb phrase in the front. Does it have to be there? How do we mark that? And then do we have to have a noun phrase or an adjective phrase here? It's one or the other if we have one, but we don't have to have both, so what's missing? So in a verb phrase like swam, in the sentence, he swam, I don't have to have anything other than the verb. But it could be, I quickly swam. I quickly swam. I can't come up with a good noun for that one. In the water, tirelessly. I left out the noun phrase or the adjective phrase. Okay. So, since Diana and I were in disagreement about whether anything was missing, she gets to continue on. How's that? Oh, what a lucky person. Okay, now we're down to looking at, we're looking at phrases. We want to know the phrase types. For love, what kind of a, that's a prepositional phrase. You don't get that easy one. Stopped quickly. For what? Are you going to say it with confidence?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Say it confidently. Verb phrase, very good. Okay. The floppy-haired elephant. Oh, but we're only supposed to get. I'm sorry. Identify the top phrase. Just put the top phrase.
Oh.
The whole thing overall is a. Yes, it is. Very good. Okay. Now, in the morning, Kendra. Nope. Prepositional phrase. Mary.
No.
I could have given you the easy one, but you were sitting in the wrong seat. Okay. Ran to the store.
Verb phrase.
Verb phrase. Very old. Not adverb. There is an adverb in there, but it's an adjective phrase. And jumps. Verb phrase. I think I also said to draw the trees. So let's just draw a couple of the trees, just for grins and giggles. The first one, quite easy, for love. He did it for love. Preposition, noun, prepositional phrase. Am I right? Am I right? Okay. Stop quickly. Then we said that was a verb phrase. How would we draw that?
Substitute, you just have a stop.
Okay, but there's one thing I'd like to make sure we put in there because one of those is a phrase on its own. Very good. So we really should have something that was kind of like, yeah, adverb phrase. Stop quickly, but overall, the whole thing is a verb phrase. The floppy-eared elephant is, you said that was a noun phrase, am I right? Yeah, you said it was a, no, yeah, you said it was a noun phrase. Right?
Yeah.
Great. How did you draw it? I know these two parts are there.
I put in the.
In the morning. Oh, Kendra, we're back to you already. In the morning. Very good. Oh, man. Ariana. I'm going to draw this one over here. Oh, Mary. How do we do that? That's a noun.
Just put a line up for empty.
Let's do that one, right? Remember, I gave you easy questions when you're doing my evaluation. Okay? It's me.
Why didn't you do the noun phrase for love?
You know, because you didn't stop me. It's all your fault. And I like it that way. All right, so now we got it, right? Catch me on dropping something else. Where'd you go? Ran to the store. Okay, we're over to Mandy here. Ran to the store. I know I've got a B and a P and a D. And then, how would you do it?
The determiner and the noun is a noun phrase. And the preposition phrase and the noun phrase connect. And then the verb connects to the preposition. And that's the verb phrase.
That whole thing is the verb. Right? Great. Very old. Ah. I want you to think of me very old. I know I've got an adverb, and I know I've got an adjective, and that would mean what? Okay. But then Isabel would yell at me because we left something out, right? What did we leave out? We don't want to spend the day. Isabel, right? Jumps. I ain't even drawing that one. That one's too easy. Okay, so there we've got those. Now, if I ask this question, Isabel, we're going to go with you again because that other one's just too easy. Which of the phrases above have embedded phrases? Man, you got to make me think now. A has a noun phrase, right? You corrected up there. Good. Stop quickly has an adjective adverb phrase. C,
Has the,
adjective phrase.
D has a noun phrase,
True.
F has a prepositional phrase and a noun phrase.
Very good.
G has a adverb phrase.
Yes. And H has nothing except the verb. Okay, great. All right, so now that you got to remember when we're looking for phrases, that many times we're going to have phrases inside phrases. Remember that Isabel yells at me when we don't do it right. That should help you on the test. Correct? All right, here we go. All right, what do we got over here? We've got cats purr. Anybody like cats in here? Cat lovers? One. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Cat haters? Couple. All right, agreed. All right. A bunch of ambivalents. Okay. Cats purr. Where was I? How was it? Christina. How are we going to draw the sentence for this? Like this? Oh. Like that. All right. Don't forget I did that. Just make sure you didn't do that on the test, right? Good. Okay. I bought green eggs and ham. Dr. Seuss fans. 1, 2. I bought green eggs and ham. 1, 2. Jen, Dr. Seuss fan.
Okay.
You should know this one.
Ham is a noun phrase.
Okay.
I didn't use the name for my egg, it'd be a noun phrase. And then green would be a phrase.
Oh, okay.
And then, bought, ham is a verb phrase.
Okay, so I'm gonna go way up here, verb phrase, right?
And then, I is a noun phrase. And then next the noun phrase to the verb phrase.
Okay. All done?
Oh, yes, I called it.
That's where all the work is. Okay, right. So we've got this noun phrase. What do we do over here?
The ham and egg, the ham and the egg, put together.
Put together, we'll call it a noun phrase. In this particular case, if you left these 2 noun phrases out of there and just call them nouns,
Okay.
I'd be okay with that one. But either way on that particular one, really not very important. What happens to this guy?
The green one,
Yeah,
we have the noun phrase to the end.
like that, right? Yeah, because it's, oh, wait a minute, is it? No. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't remember the book. Were both the eggs and the ham green?
Yeah.
Was it just green eggs?
Yeah.
And regular ham?
No.
Do I have some disagreement?
It was all green.
Huh?
It was all green.
All green?
What?
There you go. See, you were going to say all green too, weren't you? Or you've never read the book. It could be both. And in fact, I think when I drew it, I probably thought they were both green. I did. That's why I drew it like that, thinking that they were both green. However, if you think that it was only green eggs and pink ham, then you would have drawn the AP right up to the egg. So depending on how you interpreted that, and I'll have to try to make sure I don't do that on the test, it could have also gone like this. If It was only the eggs that were green. Are we done?
No, that's the.
The huge thing.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's pretty specific. Technical term, the huge thing. Here we go. The noun phrase. The energetic boy kicked the ball. This is going to be one of those places where I don't think we'll have a, we're not going to have a discrepancy like we have here. Notice this could be one of two things, this one or that one, all depending on your interpretation. All right, the energetic boy kicked the ball with orange spot. The black ball. Really? Is that the black ball with orange? Do I have it right now? Yes. You want to do this one? No. Oh, let's see. Where was I? Lupe, you have this? You want to try anyway, right? Good. Nobody needs to cheat off their own paper. You just do, right? What did you call it? Preposition. Gotcha. Cool. Where do we go? Where do you like to start? The right or the left? That way? Great. So what's next? Oh, another one of these, right? Then you're saying this is like that? Oh, right. Right. Noun phrase. Yeah, here. Oh, you mean over here? Okay. So I've got another one of these, right? Not everybody gets sound effects. Which one? Which noun phrase? The energetic boy?
Yeah.
Okay, what are we going to do?
Add the numbers and
Up like this?
numbers.
Ah, okay, very good. So we got to get the sentence in there, right? Very good. All done?
The numbers to the numbers to the
Very good. All right. Very good. Well done. Okay, so kick what? The black ball. Which black ball? The black ball with orange spots. So all of this is a big noun phrase. What did you call that? Jen. The big thing?
Yes.
Okay, the big thing is all the noun phrase connected to the verb phrase. That's what was kicked. And then this is who kicked it, so that's the subject for who, verb phrase. Okay. And then one of my favorites, unless it happens to be, was, I'm going to just say MB because I don't feel like spelling it. Motherboard on my laptop crashed without warning. Arpad, I do believe that this falls to you. Mike. No. Mine's going to be kind of like the determiner. Very good. Laptop. No. Crashed. Without. Everybody and warning. It's a thing, right? So what are we going to do? I'm going to start here with the NG, right? Then what? Crash. Connected? Right, because that's basically saying, what did it do? It crashed. How did it crash? Without warning, right? Very good. So that'll be a prepositional phrase. Then we get over here. Sorry? Oh. Okay, forgot to get that one there. So then I get this. That's the sentence, right? Okay, so there will be a couple of those on there. Now, there will be one that I want you to pay attention to right now, and that's this one here with the boy crash into the man with a bike. There will be a question on there like this that is going to have two possible meanings. And what I'm going to be looking for is a paraphrase of what each one of the two meanings is, or are, sorry. And then once you've got that, then you're going to draw the tree. So I'm going to write this out here this way. The kid crashed into the man with a bike. That's one possibility. The kid crashed into the man with cool. We do go in here, we go D, N, B, in preposition, D, N, preposition, D, N. It's going to be exactly the same on both of these. So, okay. So, somebody want to give me a paraphrase for one of these? What is a kid crashed into the man with a bike? Which one went? Which one? The kid had the bike. Great. So we would go in here and just the paraphrase is just going to be the kid had the bike. And the other possibility was, what's the other possibility? The man had the bike. Now, you look at that, that's all I need for the paraphrase, just something that shows what the differences are. And Ariana, you gave me this one, right? So what are we going to do?
So the kid is the noun.
I'm sorry?
The kid is a noun phrase.
Kid, okay, we'd like to start over here. Okay,
And then I would say, invite as a noun phrase too. And then I would attach it with, and then so that's gonna be a prepositional phrase.
good, all right, that's true.
And then the man would also be a noun phrase. And then into with the man would be a prepositional phrase.
And the noun phrase goes into the prepositional phrase, right? Cool, we got that?
And then crash would be a verb phrase.
And this is the one where the kid had the bike, okay?
So
Who did he crash into?
the man.
The van. And how did he crash into him?
With the bike.
Or with a bike or using a bike, right? So in this case, we're going to do something like that. He crashed into who? Into the man. And how did he crash? He crashed with a bike. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, I come over here. Who gave me this one? Is that Isabel? Did that? No. Somebody did. Okay, then you're going to also give me the tree. A lot of it's going to look the same, right? Got that part. Isabel, hey. And then we have the verb phrase. We know that's going to be here. We know that's going to become a sentence. Now, the big trick is over here. All right, we got into the man is going to be a prepositional phrase. And we know that this is still a noun phrase. This is still a prepositional phrase. Okay, that just leaves us with a bit of connecting to do. The prepositional, okay, with the bike. Yeah. And you may remember I said sometimes I forget to get it spatially oriented. So if something's supposed to be higher than something else, draw an arrow to the lower thing. That's what you meant, right? Yeah. Well, the man, in this case, the man had the bike. So with the bike is describing the man. Right? Therefore, it has to be connected here. So let me draw it nicer. This is the man. Prepositional phrase comes up here. Okay, and so what do? Instead of drawing it with the verb phrase getting with the bike, the noun phrase gets it because we're describing the man. That's what that one's going to look like, okay? So you're going to go in there, you're going to do two. Give me the paraphrase, which is just a short set of words to tell me what's differentiating the two meanings. All right, now that gets us down to the semantics part. Looking at number one, where did I leave off? Isabel, did I leave off with you? I did now, I forgot to. If I look at this, I've got two groups. Okay, I've got group A and group B. What is the thing that differentiates cat, tiger, and lion from the group dog, wolf, and coyote? Plus feline would be right. Okay, so we could go over there and say over the cat, tiger, and lion, we go plus feline, and over dog, wolf, and coyote minus feline. Or we could have done it the other way around. Would have worked also, right? We could have gone plus canine and minus canine. But that's the thing that differentiates the two. Otherwise, they're both mammals, they're both vertebrates, they're both animals, etc. That's the way to break that one. Provide 3 hyponyms for the following superordinates. Okay, Christina. Never mind. Lupe, I got animal. Can you give me 3 hyponyms for animal? Cat. Okay, fine. So we got a cat, dog, and coyote. Now, how about for food, Arpad? 3 hyponyms for food. Apple, lettuce, and banana. Perfect. Those are all 3 different types of foods, right? They would all roll up into food. And name 3 different types of hyponyms for vehicle. For vehicle, and tell me the prototype. Okay. And which one of those would you think is the prototype? When you think of vehicle, do you think of a bike? You think of vehicle, do you think about a motorcycle? Do you think about a vehicle, do you think about a truck? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, there you go. All right.
I could drive too.
Truck, yes, exactly. So you're looking for the thing that seems to be the most typical example of that superorgan. Okay. Which of the following terms refer to the basic dictionary meaning of a word? Oh, let's see. Did I call on you lately? I did. Would you like to tell me the answer for this one anyway? Right. It's dropped back to your row. Which of the following is the dictionary meaning of a word? The speaker sense, the linguistic sense, the pragmatic sense, or nonsense? Very good. The linguistic sense, right? Very good. All right. If I were talking about the speaker sense or the pragmatic sense, those would probably be almost the same. And it would be something like something not very literal. Okay. Then I get over to number 5, Gally, and I go, which of the following term relates to the meaning that is beyond the dictionary meaning? And this meaning is often related to the emotional reaction to a word. Connotation, right? Denotation would be much like the linguistic sense. You could go in and look up the meaning. That's just basically the dictionary meaning. Connotation's got oftentimes some emotional baggage with it. Man, that's cheap. Well, that's not necessarily a compliment if you wanted it to be expensive. Very different. All right, Selma, we're at you now. If we're going to go back through this analytical, contradictory, and synthetic thing again, a circle has no corners. True, analytically, synthetically, or contradictory. False. Analytical, because if we go in there, when we've got the not in there, a circle has no corners. All right. His mom is tall. Hard. Synthetic, it depends on his mom, right? She may be tall, she may be short. We don't know which mom we're talking about. My truck is orange. Oh, okay, we're going to go with you. My truck is orange. Synthetic, you don't know what orange truck is. You know, me and Joe Biden, you know, truck is tan, it's not orange. So, but somebody else might have an orange truck. And dogs are a type of cat. Well, try going to the other side of where you're beginning. Yeah, exactly. It's contradictory. A dog is not a type of cat. So it's absolutely false. We look at contradictory, and that's how that works. Okay. Anytime you've got some more questions on this, you should be feeling free to talk to me. Right now, I'm just going to cover the first couple of slides here on pragmatics, just to kind of get you to thinking about it. First off, the homework. Exercise A in the second chapter, it's on page 7. Won't take long, very short. Exercise A. If you haven't done so already, please take it as a homework assignment to do the course evaluation. Go out to D2L and rate the course, please. Because I do use that, as I wrote in my email yesterday. I make changes to courses every semester, usually based on those kinds of inputs that I get. And then remember that the final exam is not going to be this week. It will be next Tuesday. And most important, once you remember the day, remember it is not at 12:15. It is at 10 o'clock. Okay, so 10 a.m. next Tuesday. I'll remind you again on Thursday, but just like to highlight that so you don't show up at 12:15, find nobody, and take a face plan for the course. Okay, wonderful. That's the homework. Now let's get to this idea of pragmatics. We can think about it. I've got a whole bunch of definitions here because different people write it up. They all kind of get down to the same thing. One, the study of the effect of context on the interpretation of language and meaning. In a real linguistic sense, in a semantic sense, we could probably go out and look up the dictionary definition of a word. That would kind of be semantics. But sometimes we will use a word very differently. And based on the context, sorry. Maybe it's where we are when we say something. But it's going to be the effect of the context is the real driver for pragmatic. We could say it studies the ways in which context contributes to meaning. Let me give you some examples in another page or so. Studies the way in which context contributes to the meaning. We'll use your example. You're sitting at the Thanksgiving table and say, can you pass the salt? The correct answer would be yes or no. But that's not what you meant, right? You would be meaning, please pass me the salt. You didn't say, please pass me the salt, but that's what you meant. And so pragmatically, that's the meaning. It's not what you said, it's what you meant. Social language use and the rules for social language. This one's a little disconnected, but it's basically the idea of what may be pragmatic and make clear. I might make clear to you as an English speaker. I could say in English, somebody who's a Spanish speaker just learning English, and they're not going to pull together the pieces and realize, oh, you meant something completely different. So social language use and the rules for social language. Now on the plane, I was on the plane on Sunday. Here we go. So we have seen pragmatics before, we've mentioned it, in things like speaker versus linguistic sense. We just talked about that as one of the questions, right? Is it a real literal interpretation, or could it be, I'm sorry, is it real literal, or is it something different that the speaker meant? Speaker versus linguistic reference. A linguistic reference. I'll give you an example in just a minute on that one. I got a good one. Next slide. Okay. So we might be relating this to something figurative as opposed to literal. Now, then on Sunday, I was on the plane. I read this book, most of it. If you want to read a book on pragmatics, if you find pragmatics interesting, this guy Ewell wrote a book. It's about 90 pages long. Really good. Really gets the basics, and it breaks it up into really nice pieces. But on the very first page, he gives us 4 different ways of looking at pragmatics. What is it? It is the study of speaker meaning. So we've already talked about that, right? In the pragmatic sense, it's not necessarily the dictionary meaning. It's what the speaker intends for it to mean, and hopefully what the hearer recognizes as the speaker's meaning. Pragmatics is the study of contextual meaning. We just said that too, right? It is very context specific. If I'm in your living room and I say, it's hot, I probably am sending you a different message than if I'm standing out on the corner and I say, it's hot. On the corner, it's just a weather report. In your living room, it's probably me requesting you to open a window or turn on the air conditioning or something like that. You see the difference? The context is totally different. I'm not going to give you a weather report in your living room, but the same words would be much like, can you pass me the salt, is a request to pass the salt, not checking out your motor skills. Pragmatics, and this is the thing, every chapter he ends it almost exactly the same way. Pragmatics is the study of how more gets communicated than is said. What I said, it's hot. What I communicated in your living room was, please cool it down. What I meant outside was literal, right? If somebody said, can you pass the football to somebody, you might expect a yes or no answer, right? Pragmatics is the study of the expression of relative distance. Part of this is that whole dialectic idea, but it also not only shared space, but it could be shared experience. Here's an example that the guy used in the book. The heart attack in 26 died. The heart attack in 26 died. Now, what could that possibly mean? To us, it doesn't make any sense. Why? What is it? A heart attack died? Heart attacks don't die, they're not people. But if we were both nurses in an ICU, for instance, and we said the heart attack in 26 died, it probably means the person who had a heart attack, who was stuck in room 26, died. Context is everything. Because then we're standing around the nurse's station, we know exactly what they meant by the heart attack in 26 died. Otherwise, we just wouldn't know. Shared space, here's an example. This book, or better yet, this is different than that, which is still the same exact kind of a thing. There's nothing different other than the location. For you, you would call that this, and this would be called that. Whereas I would call this, that. Okay, so the idea is context is everything as we look at this. Okay? Now, as we get into this study, we're going to see that it really wraps around two things. We'll spend more time on this idea of implicature, but we also have to recognize that we do things with language. I could take a man and a woman, and I can't, but a priest could declare them to be community property sharers. Suddenly you are husband and wife. Your stuff ain't your stuff anymore. Good, bad. But that's speech act theory. I can christen a boat. I can name a boat and swing a bottle of champagne against it and give it a name. Commissioning. So there are lots of different things that we do with speech. I ask questions, I give orders, I share information. But I can also do things, other things. Apologize, invite, turn down, compliment. But the place that we're going to look at is implicature, because this is the place I think most important for English language learners, because we so often talk as if both of us know what we're talking about, that some people who don't share that space or share that background have no clue as to what we're talking about. It's the idea of I can say something fairly simple, but it's as confusing as the heart attack in 26 died. So we're going to talk about implicature. We're going to talk about something called Grice's maxims. How do we get around all of that? And that'll be what Grice talks about. And that will be where I end today because I'm only 10 seconds over. So you guys want to hit the bridge, you're late. Why are you still here? I will see you on Thursday at 12:15 in prelude to our next meeting after that on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Where?
Here.
Right here in River City. Saw that movie? The music man. Good singing. Starts with P, that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. Right here in River City.
About the salt that you said has the salt. You pass it, but you don't give it, but you have to say, and I have it. Pass it is not like, kind of like a joke or we do that. I don't know if you heard that before. So you said passing the salt, you do this, but you don't give it, but just you say pass.
Oh, go pass it. Pass it
Yeah.
in front of you. Ah.
You have to say, maybe, or can I have it? If not, so you gotta be careful when you go about Latino, then you say,
It just won't do it right.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you for the culture lesson.